Today I'm going to show you 5 different stocks that pay me $2,107 in December 2023, as well as how much dividends my entire portfolio is earning. Lately, I've been investing heavily in dividend stocks because I have a dream of living off my dividend income in the future. It needs to cover all my living expenses as well as keeping up with inflation and lifestyle inflation. So if you're curious to see when I reach my goal, consider subscribing to my channel. Interestingly, none of the 3 Singapore banks, DBS, OCBC, UOB, gave me dividends in December. The dividends I got were mostly from REITs. The first stock is the lousiest one. Unfortunately, I had put a lot of money inside it. This Hong Kong tracker fund has a few of the biggest companies in China like HSBC, Alibaba and Tencent. The Hong Kong tracker fund paid me $276 SGD in December. I did not actually buy this stock. My mum told me to diversify and invest in other countries like China. So she picked up Alibaba, this tracker fund and Hang Seng Tech. Unfortunately, all of them are in the red, so I feel like I want to liquefy them and cut my losses. I also prefer sticking to buying stocks that I'm more familiar with, like Singapore banks and US ETFs. Now I own 3,000 shares of this Hong Kong tracker fund at an average price of 25 Hong Kong dollars. This gives me 331 Singapore dollars of dividends a year. Also, it's only 2.57% yield for the price I bought it. So I will wait for the price to break even and reallocate it into SG banks. Stock number 2 is MapleTree Pan Asia Commercial Trust. They have commercial, retail, residential, logistics, industrial and mixed-use properties spanning Asia and increasingly in Australia, Europe and the US. In Singapore, they own a few buildings at Harbourfront and also MapleTree Business City. I know Google is there. Although MapleTree PAC paid me 365.6 as dividends in December, but it dropped its distribution per unit last year. If you don't know what DPU is, it's basically the company gives you more dividends for the same number of stocks you hold. So increasing DPU also means that my dividends per month will continue to grow even if I don't invest a single cent any further. We will wait and see how much MapleTree PAC's distribution per unit is this year. If it still drops, I think it might be time to reallocate it to one of the SG banks. But it looks like the overall trend is still going up, which is good. I own 16,500 shares of MapleTree Pan Asia and an average cost price of $1.49, which means I paid almost 25k. And this gives me 1.5k of dividends a year, which is 6.09% yield, which is not too bad. Some people ask me why I prefer dividend stocks over growth stocks because growth stocks like the S&P 500 and Vanguard grow about 10 to 20% a year. That might be true and that's why my portfolio has about 30% in growth stocks. I consider this my emergency fund and my lifestyle inflation source. For example, when I need the money when I have a child or need to buy a bigger house, I can liquidate my growth stocks and then put them in dividend stocks so I can just spend the dividends only. Also, I don't want to worry about liquidating growth stocks every month, especially because not every month is a positive return and I won't know if I'm liquidating too much or not, so it makes calculations much more complicated. When I'm living off my dividends, I don't want to look at my investments so much. I just want to remember my dividend per month number and make sure I don't spend more than that. Oh, and I gotta make sure I'm also reinvesting back some of my dividends to tackle inflation as well. So what is my goal dividend per month number? Well, to be honest, I'm still figuring that out because it depends on how simply and cheaply I'm comfortable living. I'll let you guys know in another video, so subscribe to find out. Stock number 3 is MapleTree Logistics Trust. They own logistics buildings across 9 countries in the Asia Pacific. With the price I bought it at, I'm getting almost 8% dividend yield. However, I didn't buy that many. Only 220 shares at $1.13. I paid a total of 250 Singapore dollars, which gives me a dividend of $20 every year. I think it's a very solid stock because it's got increasing dividends every year. So the yield might be 5.07% now, but it's likely to increase in the future. So far, MapleTree PAC, Hong Kong Tracker, and MapleTree Logistics gave me $646 in December. Now stock number 4 is MapleTree Industrial Trust. It has buildings only in North America, Singapore, and 1 building in Japan. These industrial buildings consist of data centers, factories, business parks, and so on. I have 11,000 shares of MapleTree Industrial Trust and an average cost price of $2.20 per unit. It gives me $1,485 per year, which is 6.03% yield. But in December, I received $364 from MapleTree Industrial Trust. Now looking at this dividend history, we can see that it has been growing but it dropped off a little bit last year. Let's hope it will increase back to 14 cents in 2024. From the 4 stocks I mentioned, I got $1,010 in December. That means my 5th stock gave me the other $1,000. Now a lot of people ask me what platform I'm using to trade. It's called Poems by Philips Securities. There's no special reason why I'm using Poems to trade. I don't think you'll go wrong with any broker actually. Now the 5th stock that paid me dividends in December is Frasers Logistics and Commercial Trust. They own commercial buildings in Australia, Germany, UK, Singapore and the Netherlands. Surprisingly, they only have one commercial property in Singapore, which is at Alexandra Road. I have almost 35k invested into Frasers Logistics Commercial Trust, which gives me $2,205 a year. That's a yield of 6.37%. They only pay out twice a year in May and December, so I received $1,096 from Frasers Logistics Commercial Trust last December. So that's why I received the most dividends in May and December. How I wish I can receive 2k of dividends every month, but sadly, I'm only getting 10k dividends a year, or $836 a month. Still a long way to go before I can live off dividends. Well, unless I choose to live a cheaper lifestyle and continue to do some side hustles, which is like semi-retirement. I'm not making anything from this channel at the moment, actually not even close, so turning this channel into a side hustle is still a far fantasy. And so those are the 5 stocks that made me $2,107 in December 2023. Since I made my previous dividend portfolio video, my capital losses have become less negative, from like negative 20k to negative 15k. My SG stocks are in the green, my US stocks are overall in the green, but it's just the Chinese stocks that make me lose 15k SGD. For example, I bought, technically my mom told me to buy Alibaba at 200 Hong Kong dollars, but it's at 65 Hong Kong dollars now. I'm thinking of cutting my losses, but I don't know why people still have a positive outlook on China stocks. This is my SRS portfolio. I only have 6k, which I used to buy one lot of DBS and one lot of UOB. Actually, I realized that I don't need to buy dividend stocks in SRS since I can't use it to fund my cost of living. So I think I will sell this DBS and UOB and buy ETF growth stocks like S&P 500, which will probably give me a greater return than dividend stocks over another 30 years. Do keep in mind that only ETFs that are listed in this list can be bought with SRS. So I think I'm gonna get the SPDR S&P 500. I have no idea what's the difference between this and the S&P 500. Google says the SPDR S&P 500 tracks the S&P 500 and also it holds the same stocks. So I still don't know what the difference is. Anyway, another big reason why I want to do growth stocks for my SRS account is because then I don't have to keep reinvesting the dividends myself. I just want to hold a growth stock and forget that I have a SRS account until 62. So as of today, I will receive $803 of dividends a month, $32 of dividends from SRS, and coincidentally $32 from OA based on 2.5%, $146 from SA based on 4.04%, $80 from MA based on 4.04% also. Collectively, that's a total of $1,095 of dividends and interest, of which only $803 can actually be used to fund my cost of living. I hope to be updating you guys on the growth of my portfolio and when I reach my goal of living off my dividends. Consider subscribing and I hope to see you in that video too. If you want to know how much money I'm able to invest each month, watch my budget 2024 video here.